Hi there, everybody. Welcome back. Bill Burkhardt Jr. here. Today, talking with Gino Tozzi. Gino's a fellow pilot alumni like myself, and Gino is in real estate. And today we're here to talk about A, the booming market, and B, the role that roofing plays into that process for both the home buyers and the home sellers. So, Gino, welcome in.
Hi, Bill.
Thank you very much,
It's
sir.
nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Doing great, sir. So tell us a little bit about how everything's been going and really how the market's been right now.
Well, I joined Johnstone in 2017 in Grosse Pointe, and we work on the Hill. Most of the agents focus in that area. My focus is mainly in northern Grosse Pointe, like Grosse Pointe Woods, St. Clair Shores, Harrison Township, Clinton Township. I actually live in Clinton Township, and I lived in Macomb County most of my life. Lived in Grosse Pointe Woods for 8 years, so I'm very familiar with the market. Right now, the market is terrific because there's low unemployment. So there's a large pool of buyers.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is that there is very low inventory. So buyers are having a hard time finding anything, and therefore they can't sell. Another problem because of that low inventory is that builders aren't actually able to keep up pace with those buyers. And most of the buyers are at lower price points. So builders actually have to produce more homes at lower price points, or else we're going to continue the inventory shortage that we have.
I got you. So you have what's going on right now is there's a ton of first-time or entry-level home buyers out there, and it's putting a huge squeeze on that probably $100,000 to $220,000 price point. Is that a fair assessment?
I'd say 100 to 200, yeah.
Okay.
Easily. Yeah, I mean, that's the segment where I get the most multiple offers.
So for a homeowner right now, if they're selling to a first-time home buyer, somebody who's moving into that entry level, generally that means they're going to be going in with some type of like a FHA loan, not going to have tons of cash on hand. So generally probably a good idea to make sure that a lot of those home buyers are going to want a turnkey where they're not going to have a ton of cash on hand to be dumping into major renovations.
You know, it's funny. Because the way the economy's been, it's been so good that buyers are now starting to more and more qualify for conventional options. So you mentioned FHA, and
Yeah.
they do have an appraisal where they do check off some items through an inspection list. It's not as bad as it used to be. They look for mainly paint chipping. They look for trip hazards. They expect there to be a railing if you have any more than 2 stairs. So that's something that you have to look out for, but a lot of people are now starting to get conventional, and typically sellers want conventional financing over FHA or VA financing. Nevertheless, you can still get your home with FHA financing.
Right.
And I encourage you to do so, and I'm happy to help them out.
Well, that's great. So right now, what would you say the biggest impediment to a home seller is right now that would slow the process for them?
I'd say... You know what? If the home seller has not maintained the home properly and invested an adequate amount of capital into the maintenance of the home, that can be an impediment. Now, if the seller understands the impediments and expects that that's going to cost them money on the sale of the home, then it's not a big deal. And most sellers understand that and reduce the price of the home with the expectation that the buyer will pay for those changes on their own. Typically, we have these issues with people that have lived in the homes for many, many years, usually decades.
Right.
And they just were happy with the home. They spent a lot of money getting the home just right when they moved in decades ago. But, in the last decade, last 2 decades, have not spent any money, very little money, or as little as possible. And many of them also become senior citizens and are on a fixed income. Therefore, it's not really possible for them to make those major expenditures sometimes.
I gotcha. So if I am a buyer right now and I go into a home and I see that home needs major renovation to the roofing, to the siding, to the windows, things of that nature, that's actually a tool in my bucket that I can bring to the negotiating table to try and lower that purchase price. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Or what you do is you price it right and you get multiple offers. The people know that you've priced in those improvements, and then you're gonna attract more people to that sale, kind of like moths to a flame.
Absolutely.
Because
People
there are
still
so
want a
many
great
buyers
value at the end of the day,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the big things too, once a home has gone through the agreement process, they still got to go through the inspection, right?
Yep.
And this is where deals often can fall apart too, because a buyer can get into it or a seller can get into it, things can get uncovered. Big one that we see a lot, and tell me if you run into this, is mold or moisture getting trapped up in attic spaces,
Oh, yeah.
ventilation issues that
Hmm.
a home inspector finally brings to light, especially in the summertime months where they can get up in the attic, get up on the roof.
Yeah, and we're a very humid state. We get a lot of precipitation
Yeah.
throughout the year, pretty much year round. We don't have a rainy season like in the south and a dry season. It's pretty consistent in Michigan. So you're going to get mold at some point. It's just a matter of time. You have to be proactive. I've heard that thermostatic fans and things like that can help,
Mm-hmm.
having adequate ventilation. Obviously having a roof up to code, and I know what you do, having the siding, having the barriers like
Mm-hmm.
the Tyvek and stuff like that helps out. And a lot of the older homes, I mean, they're basically untouched.
Oh yeah. Well, you see a lot too. You have an elderly couple or person who maybe has lived in the home for 30 or 40 years. As you said, got it to the way they wanted it back in 1990 and kind of set it and forget it. The big thing too, and this is important for home buyers to be aware of, is when you work with a home inspector, they're generally a jack of all trades. They might not be a master of all of them. So it's a great idea too to bring in professionals if you have any concern to inspect the ventilation, to inspect the roof, to inspect the windows, to make sure you don't agree to a purchase thinking you're getting X and in reality you're buying a lemon and you didn't know any better. And it's very preventable, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And on the flip, I had a situation recently where I was selling a home, and the buyer wanted major concessions as far as concrete work.
Mm-hmm.
That's another issue in Michigan is we get frost and thaw phase where the concrete, the water expands and breaks up the concrete. So
Yep.
this is very normal, and we have companies that can do mud jacking, and also, which means that they'll raise the concrete by pumping product below the concrete
Yep.
and then getting the concrete level so there's no trip hazards. The other option is to wholly replace it, and in that situation, the buy, and I'm fine with a buyer's agent. They bring their own expert in, and we have our own experts. I bring my own expert in, and we compare the quotes, and then,
And you got your roofing expert right here.
of course, of course.
Well, we just ran down and checked out that house for you down in Detroit because it's a similar situation. And homeowners
That was
trying to
something
sell
I
it.
want to buy for myself.
Yeah.
A little investment property, and that it's like I don't know.
Well, and
because it's
once
looks
we
like a
got
lot
out
of work.
there, we did the inspection. You ended up dodging a bullet, didn't you? Because it was a lot more work than
Yeah.
anyone realized. Because
No, I
was
wouldn't
the
have offered.
ventilation.
I wouldn't have offered him full ad. No way.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So, well, what's the number one tip you got right now for a home buyer or a family out there looking to make a move right now because things are hot and they finally have the capital on hand that they can afford to make the move into the home that they wanted or to move into that fixer-upper that maybe they have a vision for that they want to be the next couple that they're going to get it right and that's their forever home.
Well, I think the best advice is you have to have a plan. You can't just go shoot in the dark, go on Realtor.com and Zillow or whatnot and just look for homes. It's better to use a realtor who has access to an MLS
Mm-hmm.
and to just use one realtor instead of calling up several, unless that one realtor's not actually trying to serve you or is not helping you or not giving you, all the information that's really out there, such as agency law, which
Mm-hmm.
we are required to disclose before we actually initiate serious work for a client. We're supposed to disclose that we're working for that person as a buyer's agent, and we work under under a contract.
Yep.
And if you're not under contract with that person, you're technically working on the listing agent side as a sub-agent.
Yep.
So if you show someone a home, let's say you call up an agent and you're like, hey, I need you to show me a home, but you're not going to sign anything. That means that agent has no fiduciary responsibility to you, and therefore that agent's not working for you, and you shouldn't expect anything out of that agent, really. And a lot of people don't understand that because a lot of agents don't explain that from the get-go. So you'll want to watch out for that in an agent that's very honest, brings all the information up front, and tries to educate you as much as possible about the process. And then once you're through that, make sure that the agent's on top of stuff and sends you the property that you're interested in. If they're not involved in trying to help you out once they're under contract, totally understandable. If you want to email them and say, look, you're not helping me out enough, we're going with a different agent.
Well, it's in the world we live in, and I think we operate in a very similar wavelength. There's so much information out there. Be forthright, be upfront. We always talk about just be straightforward and disclose what you find, disclose the options, present the solutions. And when you do it that way and you treat people the right way, things tend to work out pretty well, don't they?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, they do.
Well, Gino, if somebody's watching this and wants to get a hold of you, how would they reach out to you?
You can call my cell phone at 313-587-6602. You can visit my website at www.tozzirealty.com. I'm on Facebook, Gino Tozzi Realtor. I got, Instagram. So I'm out there, LinkedIn, Twitter, very available online. I'm available when you text me. I'm very quick at getting back to you unless I'm in an appointment.
Very cool. Well, and same thing, folks. If you're out there and you're going through your home buying process and you have questions about the windows, the roof, the siding, the gutters, the doors, you know who to call. Kanga Roof's ready to hop to it for you. 586-566-0308 or kanga-roof.com. So, Gino, really appreciate you being here today with us, sir.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Hey, my pleasure. You got to stick with the pilots always. And remember, folks, tune in next week. We're going to have another topic. We're actually really going to be talking about that mold and condensation we talked a little bit about today in the attic space and how that can be a long-term issue, but also how to avoid it. So, Gino, thank you again, sir. And everyone, have a great Labor Day weekend.